I don't know how to follow that.
It's going to be an amazing speech.
I'm just going to try to put my mouth far away from the microphone so you don't hear me.
Joke?
There's no joke. Oh, gosh.
Enhance.
Okay. I'm so embarrassed, guys. This is a Florida thing. I didn't think I had a stage fright until now. The expectations are so high. Guys, I'm talking about oil. You're gonna have to give me like 1 more minute. This is terrible. Okay, so this is oil. Oil's okay. So they're really like oil's actually a big deal. It's not like a funny lecture, but it's like 1960. The world population was 3 billion. Okay, so like in just a short period of time, we're at what 7 billion people, and a big part of that is like this. Like for better or for worse, this is kind of what lets us do that, and it kind of lets us borrow in the future so we can like live the way we want. In the United States, oil is kind of like tied with excess, right? Like we feel like oil is excessive, and like that's the feeling we get. But in the rest of the world, this is like a necessity. This is what brings crops to the table. This is what brings gets the tractor to go over everything. This is what natural gas, which is very related to oil, is what lets you make nitrates so you can actually fertilize your crop. So I'm going to talk about where oil comes from. This is I'm going to show you a few pictures. This is actually really cool. This is in Alaska. You can see this oil. Okay, you might not think that's cool. I'll tell you why it's cool in a second. There's little oil spill, right? Literally in that pond right there in this beautiful Alaska. And then over here, this is a beach. I think it's in California. There's this big literally tar that's literally spilled on the ground right there. It's kind of miserable. That looks really ugly. Okay, and then this is Santa Barbara actually. This is okay. So there's oil on the surface of the water right there. I promise this means something in a second. And there's gas bubbling up. It's kind of crazy. And the question is kind of who put that there. This is actually natural. This happens completely naturally. So these last three pictures are natural oil seeps. So there's the earth spills oil into the oceans and onto lands all the time, constantly. I'm going to kind of show you how that works and why that's relevant in actually the process of trying to find oil. So flip next slide. They're here's an ocean, okay, really deep. So this is imagine that's 500 feet deep. And there's these animals floating around, and then they die. That's sad, but these actually when they die, they kind of some of this falls down to the bottom of the water, which down here is very oxygen deprived. There's no light. There's nothing. So this just doesn't decompose. And over the course of time, a bunch of stuff ends up on the bottom of the ocean and doesn't decompose. They get buried, and then they get buried, and then eventually the earth, down here, is close to the mantle. It gets really hot, so this actually cooks into an oil. There's no air, so it doesn't actually burn. So what's funny, the interesting thing that happens is that once it sort of becomes oil or gas, that oil actually just kind of starts bubbling up surface. And this is what we call a source, where oil is created, and then oil slowly bubbles up until it creates a seep, right? So this is what we see all across the world. This is Santa Barbara is actually really known for having these oil seeps. What happens actually was crazy, and I'll flip back, over the course of time, occasionally there's a big traumatic event that creates a fault or sometimes reshaping the earth, and it actually blocks off this migration pathway. And this is where the study of petroleum engineering really takes place. So what happens over the course of time is that you'll have oil start accumulating in what we call reservoir rock. This is highly porous sandstone. And it's blocked off with a seal now, so it doesn't actually escape. Over the course of thousands of years, that just accumulates. And eventually someone comes in and says, man, there's oil there. So you should drill a well, and then oil comes out. And then someone else like, yeah, you made a lot of money, so we're gonna drill well, and then like oil comes out, which is like awesome. These two guys are billionaires, right? So the problem with this is like 1954, this guy named M. King Hubbard came along and said, shoot, like, are you guys familiar with like Moore's Law in computer science? There's a Moore's Law for petroleum engineering, like seriously. Okay, so this Moore's Law says, okay, you're gonna have this potential, like, exponential increase in oil, except you're gonna be so good at it that you're gonna just like run out, right? So he predicted in 1954 that in early 1970s, that we would actually peak our production of oil in the United States, and the first decade of the 2000s, we would peak production of oil from these sources in the world. And actually in 1971, we hit our peak at 10.2 million barrels per day of oil, and it's declined ever since, until this came along. So let me go forward. There's this, people decided we're gonna attack it at the source, right? This is where we're going to get oil from now on. So this changed the game. And oil has actually increased in production over the last few years because of shale production. So they come in, they fracture this rock, and then they produce oil out of that rock. And then the other guy says, man, you made a lot of money, I'm going to try the same thing. And does that. I want to talk about really quick, like why that is so much harder. And it does like sort of buy us time, but we're actually sort of on this quick decline once we get a lot of these sources. So let me flip forward. This is sandstone. This is like, imagine like concrete dripping oil on it. It'll soak in and it'll be there. But shale, this is like glass, right? You're never going to get oil out of this unless you can crack it. So this is really hard stuff. And the question is like, why do we get so unlucky that the source rock is always like this stupid like hard material you can't get oil out of? So this is sort of the story of how this happens. Here's a mountain, and then here's like water, right? So here's like, we're gonna give it a little rainstorm, and we're gonna let like this avalanche happen, okay? So like, all these rocks trickle down, and the big rocks kind of come close to the shore, and the smaller rocks go farther away. And like the really tiny grains of sand and the clay like go and just like circle up in the water, and they like sprinkle down like little pancakes, right? And over the course of time, there's like more pancakes and more pancakes, and you get this like very, if I can get it, oh yeah. So you get this like very like sorted like rock. This big stuff out here becomes sandstone, and the stuff on the bottom that's like really layered, if you ever see like stuff, becomes shale. So this is actually like, if you remember, this is where the fish have to die, right? So that's where the oil is created. So like it like intrinsically is mostly created in shale, which is really hard to produce from. So anyway, so what happens is, if I can get this to happen, like there's a bunch of rain, and then oh shoot, go back. Okay. There you go. So what's weird about Earth is like sea level changes all the time. So like sea level drops sometimes. Okay, sea level. It takes like millions of years. So I'm accelerating it for you guys. Sea level drops, and then now all of a sudden you get like these big rocks down there. You all of a sudden can't. So and then suppose like later on sea level rises, and then you have this issue with it. It's only a sprinkled rock. So you can kind of see where the rocks just sprinkle down, right? So let's keep on going. Sea level hopefully will drop. Again, for me, please drop. Okay. So sea level drops, and then like at this point, we'll go back. Like someone drives up and realizes, oh man, that fish became oil, and we're going to produce it out of that reservoir. So, anyways, I wanted to just like, this is just kind of a quick overview of petroleum engineering and how like this is my former job, is to figure out like not just this, but like how the oil circulates sand grains and like where to get the most oil. And it's really like two things, like where the rock is deposited and how it moves, and then also like where the oil is made and where it moves. So hope that's interesting. We have this Calzo pro tip, and it says I don't know what he said, but he said just as oil migrate to us, we must soon migrate from it. Right? Like it's this, we become so dependent on it, and it is like a resource that's running out, right? So we can't, like, regardless of any other applications to oil, eventually it's going to be something that we no longer have. So anyways, thanks guys.